Hey guys, Joby Zombie here. This is a good time of the month to do this video because it's October, Halloween's approaching, so why not do my favourite horror movies of all time? Now, I've already done my favourite horror remakes, but I haven't done my favourite horror films. The reason being is because I honestly can't go from, okay, this is my 10th favourite and this is my first favourite, although I do know my first favourite and it is my favourite horror film of all time, but I'll get to that when I get to the review. Yeah, so I'm just gonna start off by saying let's go. Let's do my favourite horror films. So here we go. My favourite horror film of all time is
The Evil Dead.
Yes, The Evil Dead from 1981. This cult classic is fucking amazing. You cannot beat this film. I have watched it countless times. I think I must have watched it over and over again this week, at least. I remember last night I watched it twice in a row, one after the other. Oh my god, this film. The camera work is amazing. The acting, well, I wouldn't say the acting is amazing, but I just think that the camera work, but just the camera work itself in this film is amazing. I'm not saying it's the best aspect of the film. The plot is good. The story is good. The fake shemps. The fake shemps. Oh my god. It just goes to prove that with little money you can make a big film, and obviously this film went worldwide. It spawned 2 sequels, a remake, video games, comic books, figures, the lots. You can't beat this film. Bruce Campbell has gone on to be the best, I don't know, B-movie actor. It's just, this film is amazing, and it inspires me to want to make films. I highly recommend this film, without a doubt. My favourite shot in the film, if I had to pick one, the ending shot. Before the ending, after Ash walks out the door of the cabin, the camera focuses on one single leaf, and then it just roams through the woods, and then finally hits Ash, and it's one single. Oh, it's amazing. What else? I like the scene where it passes the rafters. I don't know what they're called. They're like rafters on the ceiling, and as the camera passes them, for no particular reason, it just goes whom, 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 whom. For no particular reason, it just does that. I could go on forever talking about this film, but I'm not going to because I've already done a review on it. I might do a re-review talking just about the first film because I hold it so close to my heart. So, The Evil Dead is my favourite horror film of all time. Moving on. I think I would have to include Evil Dead 2 in the list because, yes, it's a dark comedy, but it has the horror element in there, and it's a solid sequel. It's the only thing I can compare it to is it's an Aliens type sequel. It's like one of the sequels that you don't get, if that makes any sense at all. Basically, it's sort of what people like to call it is like a semi-sequel, where it recaps the first film. The only reason why it did that is because Sam Raimi wanted to use clips from the first film, but unfortunately he didn't have the rights, so he had to go back and reshoot the ending of the first film. And so if you play Evil Dead 2 halfway, it picks up straight where the first film left off. And I love the fact that Ash never left the cabin. It goes straight onwards. He never left the cabin. From the moment that the force hit him at the ending of the first film, and to the part where he was forced through the trees in the second one, and then pushed up against the tree and fell in the puddle, that's it. He never left the cabin. That's what's so fantastic about it. So yes, I am going to add it to the list. Yeah, Of course, Army of Darkness is not going to make the list because it's a comedy. It's a fun comedy. So, moving on. Like I've said, these films are in any order at all. So, Nosferatu from 1922. I think Max Schreck portrayed Count Orlok brilliantly. His figure, the way he crept up the stairs. It's the film is so eerie. The setting, Germany. The place, it's so eerie. I think F.W. Murnau did a fantastic job directing this film. It's a classic, and it's one of, or if not the first, vampire movie. But I believe the director F.W. Murnau changed the character's name to Count Orlok because he couldn't get the rights to Bram Stoker's Dracula. He couldn't get the rights from Bram Stoker's widow, so he just used the name Count Orlok. I think Count Orlok works. It's iconic now, so I think it works. And there's a rumor going around, well, it went around for quite some time, that Max Schreck actually either believed he was a vampire and went around and injured people on the set of the making of the film. Yeah, that's how crazy it was. But yeah, this film's just a classic for me. So let's go to the next one. Okay, now we're getting into the good stuff. The Phantom of the Opera from 1925, starring Lon Chaney Sr. This film is amazing. The camera work, the acting, even though it's a silent film, the acting is amazing. The makeup on Lon Chaney's face, because he did his own makeup, you will never forget that face. Yes, of course, the Phantom wears a mask, but you don't care about the mask because it's nowhere near as interesting as Lon Chaney's face. The makeup is amazing. How he used like the fish wire to like pull his nose up, and it's amazing. And my favourite scene in the film, other than the unmasking scene, is the ending. Because it's a silent film, this scene works so effectively. It's the scene where the village or the villagers are chasing down the Phantom, Eric the Phantom, and he stops them in their tracks, and he puts his hand in his jacket and he pulls it out like this, indicating that he's got something in his hand. And the villagers take like a step forward, and then he like does that, so they stop, and then some other villagers come, and then he turns around, stops them, does the same thing again, only to reveal there was nothing in his hands, and then they all chucked him in the river. That just, it's amazing. It's amazing because it's so effective. It's very little, subtle, but very effective, and I think it works better because it's a silent film. Yeah, and plus Lon Chaney grew up with deaf parents, and so he had to communicate with sign language, and of course the expressions on his face in the film are just, you can feel what the character is going through, so that's why I love this film so much. Yeah, so moving on to the next one. Dr. Jekyll and Mr Hyde from 1931. I think this film is absolutely amazing. Well, all of the films I put on this list are amazing, but this one I like in particular because Frederick March as Mr Hyde, what can you say? I like this film so much better than I can't remember what year, but there was another Dr. Jekyll and Mr Hyde movie that was made in the 40s. But I think this is the most iconic version. There was also one done by, no, not Universal, sorry. Abbott and Costello meet Dr. Jekyll and Mr Hyde, that's it. I think that might have been Paramount, but it doesn't matter. Well, this one in particular from 1931 is Paramount. This one's amazing. The bar scene in the middle of the film, well, not the middle, but near the end, where he's just in the bar, trashing the place up, climbing up the shelves, and how the hell can he speak with those teeth? When he's Mr Hyde, Frederick March, and he's got those teeth in, how can he talk? because they stick out and like. But yeah, for the time, the film must have been pretty scary. I mean, because it had that transformation scene, and it was done so effectively. Because with each bit of transformation, they changed the lighting, and so it would obviously add an effect on Frederick's face. The book by Robert Louis Stevenson, which was published in 1886, I believe. I haven't read it, but I would love to read it. But yeah, this one, starring Frederick March, is brilliant. Please check it out. The settings are brilliant. The costumes are brilliant. I love this film so much. So go and check it out. It's amazing. Dracula, 1931. This is the definitive Dracula movie. It has everything. The atmosphere, the acting, the little bats on strings. It has everything. But I have to mention Bela Lugosi as Dracula. I think he portrayed Dracula on stage. And he only spoke, because he was Hungarian, he only spoke English for the roles that he portrayed. And that, I think, was Dracula. I think he was absolutely amazing. No, he was incredible as Dracula. He gave Dracula the iconic look, because in the book, Bram Stoker's book, Dracula was portrayed or described as an old man who became younger. But this is like the role of Dracula where it's just iconic. You will never forget that image. The scene where Dracula's at the top of the stairs and the camera just like zooms in on him. Actually, no, that's the Spanish version, isn't it? Yeah. But off track. Dwight Frye's Renfield. Wow. It's debatable which role I prefer him as. Fritz from Frankenstein or Renfield from Dracula. I think I'm going to have to say Fritz. Although his laugh in Dracula is pretty crazy. But yeah, I do like the scene where he laughs at the maid and she just faints. I don't know, I just find it funny. But yeah, film's amazing. Go check it out. Now we move on to my favourite Universal monster movie, and that is Frankenstein from 1931. Boris Karloff in this film is iconic. I think James Whale did a good job at directing. The makeup in this film, done by Jack Pierce, the makeup on the monster I should say, is iconic. Whenever you say the word Frankenstein, you think of this. It's been parodied, it's been done so many times. That's how iconic it is. It's been done so many times. Colin Clive in this film, amazing actor. You can really feel what the character's going through, because at first he's really proud of his invention, and then throughout the film he knows he must destroy this monster because it's causing so much grief. So I'm going to bring up Dwight Frye again as Fritz. The character's clumsy, of course, because he's the hunchback. But my favourite scene with him in the film, and it's so subtle, is where he's taking care of things downstairs because some visitors are there to see Frankenstein and they're knocking on the door. And Frankenstein says to Fritz, basically, don't let them in. So he locks the door, walks back upstairs to go back to the lab, and for a split second he fixes his sock. He just rolls it up. Why did he do that? I have no idea. But that scene, the moment I saw that, it made me laugh, and I said, that's my favourite scene in the film. It's just I don't know why. I reckon that was improvisation. Yeah, maybe. But probably the scene that gets parodied the most is just the the scene where Frankenstein chucks the girl into the pond because he thought that she would float like the dandelions. Yeah, I don't know why, but it's effective when the father carries the girl, the dead girl, through the village. Yeah, that's really effective. That actually got to me a little bit. But the scene where Frankenstein is shouting "It's alive" is just amazing. I mean, there was a point where it had to be banned. Well, not banned, but they had to add in a sound effect to blank out the word or the quote where he says, "Now I know what it actually feels like to be God." And they had to blank that out because I guess it was all to do with religion and stuff. It was too much. But yeah, Frankenstein, great film. Not going to talk about it anymore because people know the film, and I'm not going to go into the whole debate which one's Frankenstein, which one's the Doctor. Frankenstein's the Doctor, the monster is the monster. That's it. So yeah, next up, The Wolfman from 1941. I think this is the only Universal monster film from the 40s. However, it's a fantastic film, don't get me wrong, and it's a great horror film. But it's not what you want to see in a werewolf film. You don't get a shot of the full moon, and you don't get a good transformation scene. The only scene you get that's to do with transformation is the bit where Lon Chaney Jr.'s, or Larry Talbot I should say, when he's sitting in the chair, and you can read what's going on through his facial expressions, and you can see the shot of his feet changing. That's the only transformation scene you get. It wasn't until Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, I'm not too sure what year it was, but it wasn't until that film where you get shots of Chaney's face transforming. Although you do get a shot of Larry changing from the Wolfman back to Larry Talbot, where he's on the floor after being beaten by his father. Yeah, but it's not the perfect werewolf film, but it's fantastic. It is fantastic because it's so iconic. I think the quotes in there are brilliant. The film is brilliant. All around, it's brilliant. My favourite scene in the film is where Larry goes to Gwen, and she's basically saying, "Larry, what's wrong? What's wrong?" And then he says to her, "You wouldn't want to run away with a murderer, would you?" And she's trying to convince him that he's not a murderer. And then he says, "I killed Baylor. I killed Richardson. If I stay here any longer, you can't tell who'd be next." And I just love that scene because she doesn't want this thing to overcome him, but it's too late. It already has. So that scene is so powerful. And then from there, it just gets better. From like where the Wolfman grabs Gwen and all the villagers are all coming after him. It's fantastic. So yeah, go check out The Wolfman. Werewolf of London, 1935. Not to be confused with An American Werewolf in London, but this is Werewolf of London. I think this film is slightly better than The Wolfman, in my opinion. Of course, all these horror films here are my opinion, so if you disagree with me, great. I love it. If you agree with me, that's even better. But Werewolf of London is an amazing film from 1935, starring Henry Hall as Dr. Geldon. He's a scientist who gets attacked by a wolf, and to stop him from becoming a werewolf, or he's attacked by a werewolf, and to stop him from becoming a werewolf, he must find this certain flower. And I know it sounds very stupid, and the plot, you would never think of a plot like that, but he must find this certain flower to stop him from becoming a werewolf. To me, I think this film's quite sad, near the end anyway. So one thing you do get from this film is a transformation scene. As Dr. Geldon passes pillars, he becomes more wolf-like. So he's walking past these pillars, and the camera passes them. And as it passes them, he starts to transform and become more wolf-like. And then finally walks off as the Werewolf of London. And I like the look of the werewolf too, how he just roams the town with like his little like old hat and his scarf and everything. I like that. It's quite a unique look. But I think the makeup's pretty good on Henry Hall. Okay, that's where I'm going to leave the first part of the video. There will be a part 2 to this, of course, talking about my other favourite horror movies. Maybe a part 3, who knows? But this is only part 1. So, thanks for watching, guys, and stick around. By the way, I was taking reference from this book. I was thinking, are there any horror films that I've missed? When I was looking at this book. It's 101 Horror Movies You Must See Before You Die. It's a good book title. But yeah, I was taking reference from this book right here. So, yeah. So thanks for watching, guys, and stay tuned for part 2. I'll catch you later.